My husband retired from the Navy in 2002, and he was offered a job up here, and we have one son. And when he moved up here, my son at that point was at 21 years of age. So he decided to move up here with us. He met a young lady from Oklahoma, and they started living together. Then she ended up getting pregnant and having my granddaughter. Her name is Naya. Shortly thereafter were married, and then about a year into the marriage, things started falling apart. My ex-daughter-in-law is mentally ill, and she has a lot of problems. And my son tried to get out of the marriage, and she tried to hurt herself and kind of stuff. So I guess he stayed out of guilt. And she, promised him he'd never be able to see his child again, which obviously wasn't going to happen, but he didn't know that. So anyway, his coping mechanism was drugs. And between her and then she ended up going right behind him on drugs. And so they ended up getting in trouble with the law, and he ended up going to a year of state-mandated drug rehab, and she had no support from her family. They had enough of her and pretty much kicked her to the curb. And so she had no home, no house, no job, nothing, and not even a car. And so I sat down with her, and my son readily wanted to give custody to us to Naya, because he knew Naya would be taken care of. And after a lot of cajoling and a lot of talking to her, she finally consented to sign Naya over to us. Naya's been in our house since she was a year and a half, and we've pretty much have her since then. She's now 6.5 and doing beautifully. So that is how I ended up being a grandmother/mother at 53 years old. So a lot of anger, because I was the type of mom that my child came first. My children came first. If I had more that you love, and you take care of your children, you give them the best you can, you raise them in the right way, and encourage them to grow and to prosper and to do good things. And then for him to go, and I was a nurse, and my husband was a military, and we never done any type of drugs, and for him to not be, and I understand, coping with somebody who's mentally ill at a young age, and he was immature. I understand that part, but to turn to drugs was, I was angry about it, and embarrassing, because I would never have, done anything like that. And he was not taking care of Naya when they were, before he got in trouble with the law. He had not taken care of her in the right way, and for them, and neither had the mother, and for them to basically not take care of this young innocent child in the way that they both knew better, they knew they should. I was quite angry about the whole thing, and I felt that I needed to be an advocate for Naya, because if my husband and I didn't take care of her, no one was going to. And she would have been a ward of the state and ended up being there. So there was a lot of, like I said, embarrassment, anger, and resentment on his part, because when they came to us and when he told me he was going to move in with her, this young lady, I said, I think that's a bad idea. You've been taught better than that. You know better than that. I said, what's going to end up happening, she'll end up pregnant. And I promise you, 9 months to the day when I said that, they came in and told me that she was pregnant. And it's like, I told you so kind of thing. And I knew that neither one of them were equipped to be a good parent to this child at the time. They had way too many issues. The day that she had the baby, my husband and I were leaving the hospital, and I remember looking at him saying, you realize we're going to end up raising this baby, don't you? And he goes, yeah, probably. And here we are raising her. So, like I said, there was a lot of mixed feelings at first, and I finally just had, I had to do a lot of soul searching, a lot of praying, and asking God, what do you want me to do? And I just didn't think I had I was equipped to do this all over again at 53. the day that she signed the paperwork and my husband got it back to the lawyer, and the lawyer had already taken it over to the judge, and we had, legal custody of her. I was on a phone at Walmart with a friend, and she goes, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's finally happened," because she knew we were, trying to do this. And she goes, "Do you realize your role's going to change like forever now?" And it kind of hit me. I just started crying in the middle of Walmart, and it's like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Can I do this? Can I do this child justice and this kind of thing? And I finally went, yes, I can, because I've got God on my side, so He'll get us through this, and sure enough, He has. So, but it was a big, like a reality check, like aha moment when you realize that that your life has changed now. So, I have to say, as far as with her, she is a gift. She has been an absolute joy. The struggles that we have is dealing with, and my son's now is of course out, and is doing beautifully. He's clean. He's never gone back. He doesn't have any problems. He's working. He's in a good stable relationship. So that part's good. The problem we have is the mother has continued to have problems and struggle, and it's really hard to turn over a child to somebody who can't take care of herself. And so we finally have got it worked out with her father, that if she wants to see her daughter, then she has to see her daughter through with the father, her father, which would be Naya's grandfather, because she just makes poor decisions. I would like for Naya's mother to be a part of her life, but on the other hand, my main concern is keeping Naya safe, and so that's been a struggle. And of course, with as far as my husband and I, we've had to, at this point in our lives, usually you have your children raised, and you get to go on and do, things for, just you and him, and we've had to rearrange that as well, and so. We've been blessed, and we've been able to work things out very well, and we have a good system, and he is a very active parent, and we do all right. But it was had to kind of readjust things in that. Fortunately, as far as monetary, we both are. He's retired military. He continues to work. I continue to work. So financially, we're very stable. There's a lot of grandparents out there who are not. They're on a fixed income. They have very limited monies, and they really do struggle. But we've not had to deal with that, and God has blessed us, in that way. So, when you're young and you're raising children, you've got your career you have to work on, and relationship with your husband, and you're trying to figure out, you're usually in your late 20s and early 30s, you're trying to figure out life and how you're going to go and what you want to do. Well, when you at this time, and things that are, I guess back then that were so important are not so important anymore. But at this time in my life, my career is figured out. I have a good, sound relationship with my husband. We've been married for 26 years now, and so those things are good and they're solid, and we don't have to worry about money issues like young parents sometimes do, and so that's the nice thing. So with Naya, she is such a joy. She's a great child. She's active in Girl Scouts, so I'm a Girl Scout leader. So I get to do that whole thing over again. She's learning to play the piano, so I get to be involved with that again. And things, like I said, that were important back then are not so much important now. Back then it was like, oh, you have to have this done, I have to have that done. And now it's like, it's not a big deal. And, she's clean, she's healthy, she's eating well. Like I said, an absolute joy to be around. And having small children in the house, because, we have to have friends, and it's always, the house is not quiet anymore. And so it's great. You just kind of go with it. And it kind of gives you a second breath of fresh air, knowing that you have to stay up with a 6-year-old and keep up with her and know the latest thing, and a lot of people go, well, what are you talking about? And I said, you don't know about this, or you don't know about that? No. Well, let me show you how to do, so like I said, I'm kind of like in the know here because she's kept me there, kind of thing. So it's been a joy. She's, like I said, 6, and so far there's nothing that what I learned. I will tell you what I've learned from my son versus what I've learned from my granddaughter. When I was raising him, my husband was in the military and he was active duty. He was in the Navy, so they're gone a lot. And sometimes when they're gone so much, and you're basically a single parent, and you're responsible for the house and your career, and of course the child and what they're doing in their activities. Sometimes I was not consistent. In other words, there was a rule that we had, or expectation we had. Sometimes when my husband was gone, being a single parent, it was just incredibly tiresome, and so I would let that rule slip. And I think that sent mixed messages to my son. In other words, when it was okay to do this, when it was not okay to do that. I don't understand what the rules are because they were not consistent. With Naya, when I've decided that when we took this on, that's one thing I promised myself, I was going to be consistent, and I have been. She knows what's expected of her and what the rules are, and they don't deviate. It is what it is, and this is what you have to kind of thing. And I think because of that, and because sometimes when you have children, having that second parent there, you're able to go, okay, I'm about tired out of this, let's tag team, kind of thing. Or if I can see my husband getting on his wits end, I can take her away and say, hey, let's go over here and let's do this, and let Peeps, she calls my husband Peeps, let Peeps get her a couple of minutes to himself, kind of thing. So having both parents, I can see how important it is, when you have a small child, that it just helps out so much more, and it helps with the parenting, and there's somebody there who's got your back, so to speak. So so that's one thing I have been very consistent with her that I was not with my son. So consistency would be one of them. And again, I'm able to spend more time with her because I'm not having to work on careers and that kind of thing. So I think that's really well. Something I didn't do with my son that we are definitely doing with her is he wasn't raised in a church. We would go to church, but it wasn't something that because we're military again, we were gone, out in and out kind of thing. And so we didn't have that long-term relationship in a church, and relationship with church. And that's one thing that we do have here, is because we're now stable and not moving every 2 to 3 years. And we raised her in a church, and she knows who God is, and she knows who Jesus is, and being able to come here to JBU, and because I bring her up here a lot with us, it just reinforces it. And so I think she's got a good understanding of what God expects of us, and she knows and feels secure in that. So I think that's another thing we've done much better is teach her the Word of God and to live it as well. About 2.5 years ago, my husband was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and at that time we were both had a lot more weight issues than we do now, and we decided, because we at first when we got Naya, we thought this was going to be a short-term thing. We were hoping a year or two the parents would get it together, and then that one would be able to be the parent and be able to take care of her. It didn't happen. So at that time, I told Matt, I said, of course, it was the very same time that he found out he was a diabetic. I said, we need to get in better shape and to lose the weight that a lot of excess weight that we've got, and because we need to be here long term. This is not going to be a short term thing. We now know it's going to be a long term thing. And so between the two of us, we ended up losing like 110 pounds, and so we are actually probably in better shape now. Exercise on a regular basis, we eat better foods. When we didn't have her, we would go out and eat several times a week, because so now we don't do that. We stay home. we eat better, we exercise more, so probably we're in better shape, if anything. And then knowing that I have to keep up with all the, the Girl Scouts and the piano lessons and you kids here at JVU, actually I think we're both better shape than we were then. So it would cause a lot of stress. When you, for instance, I mean, just off the top of my head, before we had her, I bought a little Volkswagen Bug, not thinking I'm just going to be me and my husband and we don't have to worry, this kind of thing. And then when we got her, and it's like, we need a bigger car now, and we haven't bought a larger car. He's got a big truck, but we haven't bought a large car. But just little things like that. It's like, gosh, I'm buying a new car. I don't really, I love the one I've got. I really don't want to get rid of it, but 3 of us in this little car is ridiculous. And so financially, it made a change because now it was just him and I, and for us to buy luxury items, I guess you could say, was not a big deal. And so now I had to pay for after school care or daycare when she was younger, clothes and toys and that kind of stuff, and books and little things that children need growing up. It puts a financial burden on you, and it puts a little strain, and then we got ourselves kind of caught up and rearranged, so that was an emotional issue. And then the emotional stuff with her mother, that puts emotional strain on it. And every year what we have to do is we have to submit a letter to the judge that granted us custody of her. So we have to make sure that that's done and that we have somebody to answer to. It's not like we don't, like we just have free will and we can do whatever we want to. We have to answer to somebody. And so doing the best that you can and making sure this child, you're responsible for this child gets love and security and is cared for in the proper way. It can be an emotional strain on you. I see how much more I'm blessed. Absolutely. Absolutely. He is, we know we're blessed, and so we get on our knees every night and thank God that, for our health and the fact that we don't have to worry about, money anymore as far as, the strain or anything, and keeping her healthy and keeping her happy, and us too. So we know we're blessed. When you raise your children and it's like, ooh, they're raised, now it's our time kind of thing, and we can do things together, and when you have children, you have to, if you plan something, you have to make sure you have a babysitter or include them with you or whatever. And so we thought those days were over with, and so now it's it was a little bit of a shift, a little bit of a change, and he's never complained. He's never and we've never asked ourselves, are this the right thing we should have done, or what have we got ourselves into, or what, we're finished with this. We just do it. And I guess one thing that my husband and I've always done is we've always done the right thing. And some people could have easily said, hey, look, I've raised my kids, I'm not raising any more children, I'm done, I'm finished. But that was not the right thing to do. Because like I said, we know she would have ended up in this ward of the state, and that would have been, I just could not live with that. And so taking her and loving her and giving her a good steady home was the right thing to do. So that's what we knew, that was it. And so we've done it. And to see him and how he melts, I mean, she's got him around her little finger, but to see how he melts with her and how good he is with her and how much she adores him, it's great. So yeah, we're don't get to do what we had planned on at this part of our life, but it's okay. It's okay. So the mother of Naya had a child already from a previous marriage. And when this whole thing with the drug issue happened, the first husband was able to come in and take his son away. And what I didn't understand is like, okay, he can come take that child away, but this child is okay to stay with these two people who obviously have a drug problem and substance abuse. And so that my son, like I said, was ready to sign over because he wanted her to have a good life and to, you know, in a loving home. I was the one who approached the mother and talked the mother into signing over the paperwork. My husband went by the lawyer's office to pick up the paperwork, and it was she got, you know, his assistant got on the computer, filled in our names in this piece of paper, and then we brought it to us. Her and I, the mother and I, met at the bank, had it signed, had it notarized, and my husband then picked the paper back up and took it to the lawyer. All the lawyer had to do is literally walk it from across the street to see the judge, and it cost $750. And we paid for it. Now that's easy. That was the easy part. If we had fought and had to go to court and all that kind of stuff, it would have been up into the thousands of dollars. There's a lot of people who would be more than willing to take care of their grandchildren and do it legally, but they cannot afford the lawyer's cost and the judge and the court fees and all the other stuff. So it's ridiculous. I mean, it's $250 an hour. And so that's where it comes in, the legal stuff comes in, is you have to almost prove that the parent is a coke-snorting, rotten, horrible person, or the child has to suffer consequences like you know, neglect or abuse, in order for someone to step in and take the child away. And so, and then there's all the other ramifications that have to come with it. So it can get very costly, and it can get very, you know, a lot of time and a lot of money can be spent to it, and it's just really unfair. Like I said, we're fortunate that we both work and, you know, have be able to do that. There's a lot of people who don't. We've got to do, you know, our main concern should be the child, and the family unit is what it is. I mean, my husband, who is a grandfather, myself as a grandmother, and the child, that's a family. And we're a lot more stable than the parents ever could have been. So keeping the family unit together should not just be mom, dad, and the child. So don't beat yourself up, because that's what I did for the longest time. Because my son knew better than what he did, and I beat myself up over it. And I finally had to realize this. It wasn't me, and he was not taught this. And so I finally had to get over that part. And then the second thing I would tell you to do is love your grandchildren and enjoy them. Love them and enjoy them, and you'll be blessed. Just love them and enjoy them.